I see obviously Khabib and Gaethje fighting this weekend, or at least they're matched up. And then Conor and Poirier looks like is going to get done. It's not done yet. That leaves Tony Ferguson. He and I have had some back and forth. We've spoken over social media, call outs here and there. I mean, I think he's down to fight. I think I'm down to fight. I think that's the perfect fight to introduce me to the UFC fans, to who I am. I think Tony Ferguson's the scariest guy in the division. He's got a screw loose and he fights like it, and it's admirable. So it would be I think that would be a great introduction fight for me.
Well, Chandler, it looks like you might get your wish, because Tony Ferguson just called out Michael Chandler on Twitter. After trying to decrypt Tony's tweet, it looks like he wants to fight him in December. He wants to close out 2020. I don't know how likely that's going to be. It's only a month away. I wonder how likely that's going to be, because there's 3 cards in December, and the only one with not a super big main event is the first card on December 5th, Jack Hermanson versus Kevin Holland. Possibly they could put Tony versus Michael Chandler as the main event on that card and put Hermanson versus Holland as the co-main event. But the issue is that is only 3 weeks away, and they have yet to officially negotiate for the fight. There is UFC 256 on December 12th, where they actually don't have a main event currently. The main event was supposed to be Kamaru Usman versus Gilbert Burns. Then they had Amanda Nunes versus Megan Anderson to headline the card. That fight got pulled out as well. They have one championship fight, and that is Petr Yan versus Aljamain Sterling. That looks like it's going to be the main event. Possibly they could do Tony Ferguson versus Michael Chandler as the co-main on that super stacked card. And then there's one more event, the last card of the year, on December 19, but is currently headlined by Leon Edwards versus Hamza Chimaev. Possibly they could put Tony versus Michael Chandler as the main event. Leon versus Hamza could serve as the co-main event, due to them not being as highly ranked or as prominent as Tony and Chandler are. It absolutely does make some sense to bump down Leon and Hamza to the co-main event so they could place Tony and Chandler at the top there. Now, of course, there is one big hurdle for these guys to get over: the money. As you heard before, Tony Ferguson is upset that Michael Chandler is getting paid more than him. So we still have to see through the negotiations if Tony Ferguson is going to get the money that he thinks he deserves against that guy, against the guy he's upset about getting paid more than him. Let's say he's negotiating, he's talking to Dana about this Michael Chandler fight, because you have to also remember this may be a good opportunity for Tony Ferguson to directly negotiate for more money, given that he's fighting the guy that's getting paid more than him. He's going to say, how is this guy getting paid more than me? I'm a former interim champion, I've fought the who's who, I've been in the UFC for such a long time, I'm a bigger name than he is, I draw more than he does. He could potentially negotiate for more money than the free agent fighter. Free agent fighters generally get paid more, right? Because there's almost like an auction going on. Everybody wants to throw money at that fighter to get them in their organization. That's why Chandler got paid more than Tony Ferguson and Dustin Poirier. So business-wise, this can also be a good move for Tony Ferguson to directly request for more pay. But if he doesn't, we might not even see this fight happen. Tony Ferguson might just be like, you know what, I'm out of this. I'm just going to fight Oliveira or something like that. Possibly, but Tony also has that old school mentality. Chandler's an old school fighter. He definitely is going to have a respect for Chandler's skills, and he might just take the fight, because here's the thing, man. A Michael Chandler fight does more for Tony Ferguson than Dan Hooker does, than Charles Oliveira does. Frankly, Michael Chandler lately is getting more press, more attention than Hooker and Oliveira. He's also been a former Bellator champion. He's fought higher competition than Dan Hooker and Oliveira has, and due to his old school mentality and how a lot of older school fighters know him, like Tony Ferguson, I think Ferguson would take a Chandler fight before he takes a Hooker fight. There's a lot more involved with a Chandler fight. And with Justin Gaethje, it looks like there's rumors that they're going to have Justin Gaethje as a replacement fighter for Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier in case something doesn't come into fruition. So that potentially leaves him out of the Tony Ferguson rematch, which I know a lot of people like to see. But frankly, Tony Ferguson versus Michael Chandler is such an interesting fight. Michael Chandler, for a lot of people that don't know, is a long-time Bellator great. He's been the champion before. He's fought the who's who. He's fought some of the best fighters to ever come out of Bellator. He went to war with Eddie Alvarez. He beat Benson Henderson twice. In fact, his last fight was a first-round knockout win over him. He avenged his loss to Brent Primus. He knocked out Patricky Pitbull, not his younger brother Patricio, who's an absolute monster, right? Patricio, the younger brother, actually knocked out Michael Chandler in his very last loss. And Chandler also defeated Marcin Held by submission, mind you. So Chandler is absolutely a top-notch fighter, but I have a big feeling this is not the fight he needs right now. Tony Ferguson is one of the absolute best fighters in the world. Pound for pound, one of the absolute greatest fighters currently in the UFC. He is so hard to handle, man, from his volume to his never-ending cardio, decent power, insane Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu off his back, chokes even standing up, the most unorthodox game you've probably ever seen before, with an insane reach, man. Ultimately, I just see Michael Chandler struggling out there after the first round and a half about, because Tony Ferguson can sometimes put himself in danger, and Michael Chandler absolutely has one punch knockout power. He's going to be one of the most powerful guys in the lightweight division. Punch for punch, there's going to be very few guys who can hit as hard as Chandler does, due to his explosion, his athleticism, and the way he commits into his punches. He digs in all the way with his right hand. He has insanely powerful leg kicks. He resembles a lot of what Chad Mendes is. Right? Imagine Chad Mendes in the lightweight division. That's essentially what Michael Chandler is, just a bigger version. Everything else is almost identical. From wrestling to powerful leg kicks to that blitzing right hand. He's probably not good as a technical boxer as Chad Mendes was, but he definitely has more power. He matches that same kind of speed in the higher weight class. But the thing about him that is better than Mendes is his cardio. He's able to last longer and more comfortably than Mendes can. And that ultimately does make him a very dangerous guy for anybody in this division, but technically, he does not match up to a lot of the top 10, let alone Tony Ferguson. Chandler is a pretty straightforward fighter. Everything he does is rather straightforward, and because of that, it can be very much anticipated, predicted, and countered. He throws a lot of 1-2s, he doesn't mask his leg kicks, he doesn't feint that often, he doesn't hide his takedowns that much. He has a lot of horsepower and he tries to blitz his way through everything. And that is why I say, after the first round and a half or so, Tony Ferguson is going to get used to that explosion and used to the athleticism and start picking Michael Chandler apart. And I frankly think that's how most fighters in this division are going to beat him, for the same exact reason. He's always going to be a difficult fighter in the first round for anybody. The only guy that might handle him in the first is probably Conor McGregor. Other than Conor, I think everybody else is going to have a hard first round against Chandler because of his attributes, not so much his skills, because of how aggressive he is and how much he tries to look for that big right hand. I think Tony's reach is going to lance him the entire fight. That jab is going to keep him at a distance the entire time. The two things I can see him countering the jab with are the right low kick and also a takedown. The takedown can get him submitted. It can put him in a very bad position on the ground. I think Tony Ferguson is a better grappler overall, better Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu artist, better chokes. Chandler can absolutely hang on the ground with anybody, but I think as the rounds go by and the more damage that Tony Ferguson is able to implement on Chandler, Chandler's grappling skills are only going to diminish throughout the fight. Chandler's biggest punches are that big right overhand, and he has a decent jab. Anything he throws is something that Tony Ferguson has seen at a higher level countless times already. So I just don't see what Chandler is going to be able to do out there that's going to give Tony Ferguson that many fits, other than exploding on him right from the get-go and catching him off guard, right? Use all of his explosion, the full extent of his athleticism, and try to win with a blinding finish in the first round, or even the second. Other than that, I just don't see where Michael Chandler is going to be able to technically hang with Tony Ferguson. So ultimately, how I see this fight playing out is, I see Chandler exploding in the beginning, I see him trying to land that big right hand, trying to put on a good first impression to the UFC audience, probably catching Tony Ferguson here and there, catching with one good right hand as Tony leans away from the punch, possibly a few good leg kicks in the first round. Tony starts laughing it off, giving Chandler some respect, and just peppering him with jabs, start hand fighting, playing with Chandler's hands, and then landing elbows over the top just like he did against Josh Thompson. Whenever Tony Ferguson does close in the distance a bit, I do see Chandler just instinctively going for a high amplitude takedown, lifting him, slamming him, all that stuff. I see Tony Ferguson putting him almost in a triangle choke every single time, and also probably a guillotine choke transitioning to a darce, putting Chandler in so much danger whenever it gets to the ground. Elbows off the back in case Chandler does secure a takedown and escapes the chokes. I still see Tony landing elbows off his back, probably ending rounds because of that. Chandler's not going to be the same kind of guy in the third, fourth, and fifth. Ultimately just getting peppered by that jab, big uppercuts, push kicks to the body as Chandler's starting to gas out. Ultimately, Chandler gives up his neck standing, and Tony Ferguson submits him with probably a darce choke or a standing guillotine choke. I honestly would have liked to see Michael Chandler fight maybe Dan Hooker, Paul Felder, or Rafa dos Anjos. Given Felder's fight with RDA, I think Dan Hooker versus Michael Chandler was probably the more logical fight to put on than Chandler versus Ferguson. At the end of the day, I think not only Tony Ferguson, but guys like Conor McGregor, Justin Gaethje, Khabib, and Dustin Poirier are a little bit out of Chandler's league at the moment. So leave in the comments below, what do you guys think about this fight, and is this the fight you want to see for Tony Ferguson and Chandler? Personally, the fights I would like to see were Tony Ferguson versus Charles Oliveira and Michael Chandler versus Dan Hooker. I think those fights would have made a lot more sense to put together, competitively that is. So very fun news, man, and I'll see you guys in the next video.